Welcome to the End of Life Conversations podcast. I'm Reverend Wakil David Matthews.
And I'm the Reverend Mother Ana Luisa Armendariz. In this podcast, we share people's experiences with death and dying, whether it's grief and loss, or joy and celebration, all things related to the end of life.
We so enjoy all our insightful and passionate guests who generously tell their stories with compassion and wisdom. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. We're so glad today to have Anastasia Dadashpour join us. She grew up in a multicultural and acutely political family and was introduced to a multitude of ideas about the functioning of society. Her curiosity drew her to explore the world and its systems, cultures, histories, and perspectives. She's traveled to 44 countries.
She is a proud mother of two daughters, Azaria, who is in spirit, and Isabella, who is her greatest joy. She has enjoyed working in the nonprofit sector, journalism, human-to-human diplomacy, and she continues to be inspired by the profound drive of the human spirit. Anastasia currently owns the Sunshine Sanctuary Boutique Jungle Lodge in Costa Rica, where she hopes people will go to find rest and relaxation. She's also the author of Transcendence, an upcoming play about children imagining peace on Earth. Welcome, my friend.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so exciting. So glad. I can't wait to see the play and go down to Costa Rica. I can't wait to go there.
So many
so
things.
Good to have you.
The future is untold and exciting possibilities.
Yeah, it's all a mystery. So glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. We always like to start with asking you about when you first became aware of death.
It's hard to say. I feel like death was always a curiosity for me throughout my life. I had a bit of a thin veil between myself and my understanding of the other side of life. But I never quite put my finger on what that meant or how it felt exactly until my grandmother, who was my second parent, a very, very integral part of my life and my childhood. She passed away in 1998. She was a devoted Catholic woman, very old Spanish family, and like lace on her head when she went into church, that kind of older abuelita. And when she died, she was so scared. And I mean, we're talking about someone that went to church like every day and, with her knees praying every night before bed. And so it really gave me pause to think about, as faithful and devoted as this woman was and as good of a person as I knew her to be, she was scared in her last moments, like really, really deeply terrified. And so I thought a lot about what she felt or what she saw or what she anticipated. And, given her very long 91 years of life on this planet, why she would have felt so much terror meeting her maker. So that stuck with me. And then I have since lost a child and to negligence at the hospital. So it wasn't a natural death. And my father took his own life with a weapon. So there have been some other big events that have bookmarked my life in very profound ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. The hardest things. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much for sharing that. And this is a safe place for you to share what feels comfortable to you and what doesn't. But I am grateful for this opportunity with you because you have firsthand experience of deaths that are not what people would deem normal. But how have these deaths influenced the day-to-day life that you have created for yourself? How are these deaths impacting your story?
I guess it has further thinned the veil for me, actually. And specifically with my daughter Azaria's death, she died in 2008. And I felt as though because I was connected with her through an umbilical cord, through a physical umbilical cord, when she transcended into spirit, I was still connected to her through an umbilical cord. And so, regardless of my faith in a spiritual practice or religious paradigm, I knew that she was God. I knew that I had a direct, unfiltered link to the divine.
Mm.
And I was getting downloads like crazy. And she had a mission for me. And she was like, this is where you need to go. And this is what you need to say. And this is how you need to say it. And this is who you need to talk to. And it was very, very, very clear. I mean, she was like, here, you're my puppet. You have a human body and you can do the things I need to, for you to do. And I'm up here kind of orchestrating the whole plan. And I was like, okay,
Mm.
and for some reason, somehow that made the impact of the loss a little more palatable because I felt like I was part of a grander scheme.
Mm.
I was being used by the divine in the best possible way that I could with my skill set. So, yeah, and then my
Mm.
father, I've had the best relationship with my father that I ever had after he passed out of his body. I was like, "Oh, great." It was that whole physical being part of you that didn't really work for our relationship. But
Mm.
once he was in spirit, he was just like such a pure, divine, pure love. And so I was able to really rework and reconfigure a lot of what had transpired between us in our physical relationships here in this
Mhm.
plane.
Mm. Mm. Wow,
Wow.
I really love that sense that there's a connection after our beloveds leave that can be just so so strongly felt and so guiding, so much of a guidance.
Mhm.
We talk a lot about the guidance of our ancestors, and ancestors can come in many forms, and so that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's profound. Very
It is
profound.
profound. It is, and it's a gift, Anastasia, that you are able to articulate this with us today. Because oftentimes when I sense that when there's a loss that doesn't isn't deemed natural, right? End of life, 90s, old age, that is deemed like the good way to go. But other types of deaths, society doesn't want to talk about them. And the folks who are left behind feel such an immense loss and also cut off from being able to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so you feeling divinity in both of these relationships, they were bodies who passed on, but their soul, the spirit, the divineness continues with you and around you. And I think that's such a gift to teach, right? That it's not over. We're still in relationship.
Hmm.
Absolutely. It's really wild. And the more I've learned about ancestral, DNA relationships, the more I'm like, wow, I am truly the sum of my parts for the better or the worse.
Yeah.
I have
Hmm.
colonization in my past, the Spanish family in New Mexico, which I'm not proud of. And I think there's a lot of shame that got filtered through the ancestry, but also a lot of pride, connection to culture and tradition. And so it's not just those who I know or have heard of. It's all of the multitude
Hmm.
parents, grandparents, et cetera, that goes back, you know, um,
Eons.
beyond, right. How long do
Yeah.
we talk,
Yeah.
I mean, we're
Right.
all one, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Back and back and back.
Yeah.
Wow. And
Oh.
forward. And then we can start thinking forward and forward. It's all connected. Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for
Hmm.
sharing that. That's such a profound knowledge and thought something to hold, something to hold for all of us. We'd like to also ask more about what your current work is, what you're working on, and again, how it's informed by this what you're talking about.
As you mentioned, I own a beautiful little hotel in Costa Rica in Montezuma. And I went to Costa Rica in 2020, right after my father died. Of course, COVID was so intense. And then the elections, regardless of blue team, red team, were so intense for the country. And my father, shot himself. And I had to literally go and pick up the pieces unexpectedly. And so my graduate work was looking at democratization in the Middle East. And so I was very, very aware of what democracy means.
Mm.
And so after the 2020 elections, I was terrified. I mean, my fuse had been, I was so scared that it was just over, over, over for the United States because the pillars of democracy had been depleted to such an enormous degree.
Yeah.
And so I went to Costa Rica as soon as I could. A friend of mine was like, look, you just need to take a mommy break a little bit, like, go for a week or 10 days or something and just take a deep breath. And I did. I went and just sat on the beach and I respirar. I breathed in with the ocean. I breathed out with the ocean. And I did that for a week and then another week. And then those weeks turned into 3 months. And my family came to visit me, my daughter. And I really healed with myself with, being as neutral and susceptible to the beauty and grace of the jungle and the nutrient rich air, water, food, life, pura vida, like really brought me back to health. And my father died and left me a little bag of gold, not actually, but like he left me his legacy. And I, through a mysterious series of events, was offered to buy a hotel. And I was like, okay, A equals B, and I'm here. I'm going to put A and B together, and I'm going to buy a hotel in Costa Rica. And so it was very mysterious, but I feel like it does carry my father's legacy, and he is the protector of the space. He's there. His ashes live there. And so that is a space that holds a lot of potency and potential. The creative spirit is very, very strong there. So, yeah. And then
That's so
in
beautiful.
addition, I just finished a play. I was invited to write a play about, I'm a writer. I had already written a book. It's called Love, a Manual for Humanity. And it's based on me asking myself thousands and thousands of times over decades, what is the end of the story in Israel-Palestine? And again, my graduate work was looking at conflict resolution and human rights in the Middle East specifically. So I have traveled quite a bit in the Middle East and studied it academically and interviewed innumerable amounts of people that are much smarter than myself about, how does this story end? And I channeled a book that is called Love, a Manual for Humanity, which is the end of the story is we have to really be kind, loving human beings ourselves and in the world and towards others. And we need to live that and be that. We need to be vehicles and vessels of love, period. We're all humans and we all have our issues and our problems and our traumas, of course. I don't ask anyone to forget who they are or bypass what's true for them, but also training people to be in the space of love and then pushing that out into their lives, into their work. Hopefully, bankers who are banking as love and politicians who are, making laws in love, and parents and teachers and diplomats and every single one of us in this world, if we do that in the essence of love, then we change the world. And we change the story of what's currently happening here on October 7th, 2024, into a different story.
Wow. Wow. May it be so.
Well,
Yeah. Inshallah. Inshallah. Thank you for that. It's
Inshallah, that's
beautiful.
right. Yes.
one of the things you said really reminded me of a story I read of the indigenous people. I think the Mayan indigenous people would take their people who were in mourning to the ocean. They would walk them down to the ocean. And because the ocean has that, what you talked about, that healing power to just be, to take all of your sorrow, all of your pain, and all of your, and just hold it, and you can put it all there and it'll hold it. So that vision of you being on the ocean and just breathing with the ocean is very, very sweet, beautiful. Thank you for that
Yes.
and for all you're doing. I can't wait to read that book.
Yeah, I know. Me
It's going,
too.
it's going in the podcast notes.
Yay. I
Well,
love it. I wish I could just give you a book. I'm going to have to order it. I took all of my copies down to Costa Rica to do a book signing down there. And so I literally gave my very last copy here in Colorado away, unfortunately.
that's okay. I can bring some back.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Or I could just order some,
Yeah.
No, there's a couple of pieces with what you just shared. Full transparency, I really want to cry for a while. And your offering of letting me go and stay at the Sunshine Sanctuary, I think about it raining and me crying. I also am needing that like spiritual washing, millennia old water, just taking what isn't no longer of service to me and just taking it back into the ocean.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that was your calling, and that's definitely what I'm feeling these days as well. And I will also want to tell our listeners that you and I met when you were doing a dinner to introduce some Palestinians in our community who were talking about the work that needs to be done in the Middle East. And that was my first introduction to you, I think 2017.
right. I'm sure.
It was way back.
Mm-hmm.
And, just noticing that thread of the Middle East has launched you into your life's journey and brings us on October 7th, 2024. And thinking about those who have passed for the last year, like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of innocent lives have been taken. And I just want to bear witness to that, and it's been your life's work. So I'm sure that means a lot more to you in your daily life than, well, it should mean to most humans on earth these days.
Yeah. Yeah. For
And
paying
I
attention.
so deeply feel that we're connected. I feel like everyone is feeling this. I mean, of course I am feeling it. I'm watching the news and paying attention and talking to people. But I think in the collective, we're feeling it. And I think it's dense. And I remember someone saying to me a long time ago in 2001 when 9/11 happened, and she was an elder at the time. And she said she could just feel herself kind of hurling souls into the right direction. She was holding space and helping souls find their way through whatever portal spirits go through. And at that time, I didn't totally understand what she said, but I remembered her saying that, believing her that was true for her. And now, 23 years later, moving into my matriarchy, also feeling that the intensity of knowing what collective suffering feels like. And, when many, many people die in a day or in a moment, it does shock the system. It shocks
The collective.
And so, you say you need to cry, and yes, I thank you. I think our tears are necessary and help us feel human, really, because each of these people, they have lives and aspirations and blood. I recently asked a diplomat, how do we value the weight of blood? And I didn't get a satisfying answer, but each drop of blood holds the same weight, and so there's a lot of blood that has been shed over this last year, and I've been having conversations with people about shifting timelines, and this gets very etheric, or esoteric, But perhaps, our prayers and our devotion to kindness, our devotion to love, our devotion to a future that collectively enables us to be joyful and happy together on the same planet,
Mhm.
it does shift timelines. Then we
Yeah.
live
Mhm.
in a world where we inch closer and closer to peace every single day. And we,
Mhm.
with each breath, with each night's sleep, that we dream a new consciousness, a new reality, we, push the envelope just a little bit. And so,
Yeah.
perhaps in my lifetime, maybe in my daughter's lifetime, I'd like to see it personally, selfishly,
Yeah.
to be alive on this planet when people are like, you know what? I, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
yes,
have
yes,
a
yes.
valid right to life, as do I. So,
Yeah.
Wow, wow. Oh man, I pray that is true. I mean,
Yes.
you folks are a little less far down the road than I am, so you might make it and I might not. But it's that idea. We plant the seeds. We keep planting the seeds. We keep
Mhm.
planting the seeds, and the forest will grow, and the fruit will come, and someone will hopefully be able to benefit from it. I do want to note for our audience that we're recording this on October 7th, which is
Mhm.
why that date is so profound and so deeply felt right now for the three
Mhm.
of us. Yeah, thank you so much. Wow,
Yeah.
what a wonderful conversation. What a wonderful thought. Beautiful
Yeah.
thoughts.
Well, and I'm still in that vein. Anastasia, you have been working on a play about children see finding peace, making peace, but after the apocalypse. So I feel like we should talk about this.
amazing. Yeah. I think I got
Yeah,
distracted with my book, but where I was actually going is what's happening now, which
Yes.
yeah,
is, I'm in,
It's all good. It's all
I
connected.
love
This
it.
is
I
how
love
it
it. Love
is.
it. Love it. So it's called Transcend. And I haven't traditionally learned how to channel, but words come through me and then I write them down and I realize they're way better than I could ever have made them. Or the collection of them, the information that comes out. And so my book was channeled. I have a second children's book that's unpublished that was channeled. And then I haven't channeled anything because it just comes by itself. It's not called.
Mm.
But this play came, I was invited to write a play. And then I was like, gosh, I don't know what I would write about children imagining peace because I don't know what peace looks like. And I can't even imagine it because I'm not conditioned to see that world
yeah.
with my brain. And so it came through and it came through post apocalypse.
Mm.
And so the story is there's 12 children who survive Armageddon, which there is a place in present day Israel that is called Armageddon on the eve of people talking about nuclear weapons being thrown around the planet. That's where we're at. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
so this play starts with 12 children. They're Palestinian Christians, Bedouins, Druze, African Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, Sephardic Jews, like, Samaritans, like, the whole collective, children from Gaza, children from the West Bank. Like, I really tried to encompass, like, who is living in this area that we call, between the Jordan River and the sea. And these children find each other and realize that there is no identity. Once your identity is wiped clean,
Mhm.
once your people have destroyed each other and there is nothing left, then and you start anew, then you start from an innocence
Mm.
of creation. And so throughout the play, the children, are wearing various colors symbolizing their previous identity pre-apocalypse. And then throughout the play, their ragged clothes are mended to be wearing white. And at the end of the play, everyone is wearing white. And they
Really.
reimagine through their innocence their parents and their families and their communities coming back to life, but through the purity of their imagination, through their consciousness. And
Mm.
so they bring the world alive again. So there's kind of like this resurrection experience, this death and resurrection experience of the planet and of civilization. And I'm kind of hoping that when we get it out there in the world, people are like, whoa, wait, I don't want to do that. Can
Yeah,
we choose
yeah.
another timeline on that? Can we choose
Yeah.
another option? Like,
Wow.
so
Wow.
I'm pretty inspired by that in this moment.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Phew.
I just with your words though, I was in your story already and I could see
Yeah.
it. I could see
Yeah.
these children mending their clothes and to finally it's quilted into this innocent lightness of being.
Wow. Yeah, that was very moving. So I haven't even
Mhm.
seen the play and I'm already deeply moved. Thank you.
Well,
Wow.
I'm excited. I'll keep you posted on, who
Yeah.
and how and when we're going to make it all available.
Yeah. Perfect. Beautiful.
So
Thank you.
beautiful.
I'll have to introduce you to our last guest too. So you guys can
Yes.
compare notes about three plays.
Amazing. Please do. Because right now, me and my collaborator are in the very beginning stages of, taking an idea and making it real. And so any assistance we welcome. Please contact me.
Yeah. Notice to all playwrights out in the world.
Right.
Yeah. And I loved his last thing he said to us. If you know any producers in New York or
London or
London,
near.
Yes. Please.
please let us know.
Calling that in.
Yeah. It's beautiful. We always like to kind of think about the challenges that you go through in the work you're doing, but also where you find support, where you find what practices or connections or community or whatever. What is it that keeps you going day to day? Really, it helps you stay centered and grounded.
What has probably been most effective for me is dance. I have always been a dancer throughout my life, and there's an amazing community here in Denver, an ecstatic dance community. And that's like my church. That's my workplace. That's where I go to just transform whatever is happening through movement, through breath, through like the imagination that happens in the microsecond of creation.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that a long time. I'll be honest, Ana Luisa and I have spoken about the tragedy of American society not being able to really hold death. And so that's why I really so deeply support the work that you both are doing. Thank you a thousand times over, because I felt that it was so foreign. It was so alien to experience something so shocking and devastating in all of my three experiences that I've shared. People got it to like almost like a 0 degree. I
Yeah.
mean, like not even at all.
Yeah.
And that was an additional secondary shock around, you know, having your community evaporate
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
when in the moment where you need people the most.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's really just come down to my relationship with source, my relationship to the earth, my relationship to myself, my relationship to my future, my relationship to my desires and my legacy, what I'm here to do, my relationship with maintaining my relationships with my deceased beloveds. But in terms of support, I wish I could say I had some.
Mhm.
And I had some. I did have some, but not much.
Not
Yeah.
enough. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm here for you now, though.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah, it's true. And this is the part where Wakila and I are really committed to this work because so many of us have death experiences, even, and what is it like near death experiences that people don't understand, or working in the death cares world. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's too unsettling. And so it's such a shame to our culture that we can't even just bear witness to it. and just, looking in the eyes and just be like, I love you and I'm here for you. And yeah, so I understand. I understand that. I understand
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. And we talk a lot too about what is important, what the importance of recognizing what's useful and appropriate and what isn't when you're working with someone who's grieving for whatever loss.
Mm-hmm.
We did a special podcast just about that. And both of us have had experiences of both. And I think one of the big things that came from that is forgiveness for messing up, because you're going to mess up, and forgiveness for those who say things that don't necessarily help. But again, just that being aware of that and really thinking about that, considering carefully before you act or speak, is this about my need or about the person who I'm speaking to?
So
And
wise.
yeah, and so it's so important and hard. It's difficult. It's hard to do that because we all have our own needs. We want to make sure that people notice that we're nice people, you know,
Yeah.
and that can get in the way of our really considering, is this really about me or about the person who's suffering? So I'm so glad you now have Annalisa next door.
Yeah, and
And
others too. Like,
yeah, and I'm
Wakil
farther
and I,
away, but
yeah, Wakil is definitely our support as well. The other piece I was just thinking about, I always go back to one of our guests, Patty Bueno, way back at the beginning of the first
Mhm.
season, but how she explained it, I will never forget. We have losses every day, be it as elemental as the loss of that breath that I just took. It's gone. As the trees are beginning to shed their leaves. There is a very formidable loss that we're having. We're ending our summer. We're going into autumn. There is a loss of, ideas and marriages and job opportunities. And there's so much loss truly around us, but nobody is taking the moment to just bear witness to it and, say, hey, I just lost a really good friend. She's no longer speaking to me and I'm really sad by that, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But she said the more we practice noticing these small losses, our container to fill the big ones, our container will be stronger to fill the big ones, like a death. Like it's just a different kind of loss, but we'll be sturdy enough to take those losses. And I really appreciate that because it reminds me that oftentimes our community, it's almost like a spiritual bypassing. We're like, we have to be so positive and so, on to the next great thing and we're going to make it and we got this, that we forget that death has impacted our collective or our personal stories.
Mm.
And, there's no space to acknowledge it or to hold it or to just be silent with it as a community. So yeah, that's the learning we all have to work on, I think, as a society these days.
Mhm.
And again, the idea of death doula is so brilliant and profound to me. I mean, holding space for the person entering the transition. I mean, how magnificent. I
Yeah.
truly,
Yeah.
I think that's some of the most awe-inspiring work I can really imagine. I mean, truly. And I'm not just saying it to the two of you. I felt that way for a very long time. I met this man, a Burning Man of all places, and we're having these wild adventures. And I remember him saying that he was practicing this type of Buddhism where he was intimately connected to death in every moment.
Hmm.
Mm.
Like death was his guide. And at the time I was like, whoa, that is really creepy. And I didn't hear it at all. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you're my neighbor. Oh, like I got that.
That's so funny.
um,
Ah.
but it landed in me as something I needed to
Mhm.
think about quite a bit in my life. And since then, I've thought, what an amazing transition. Like, what a profound
Yeah.
opportunity for the next level, layer, dimension, whatever is next. I mean, doing it well, doing it consciously,
Mhm.
doing it with
Mhm.
intention, and doing it in your body, without the
Mhm.
spiritual bypassing piece of like, oh, I'm going to let go, but like actually physically, the
Releasing.
yes, wild. And so, wow,
Mm.
because one of the things I remember this man saying to me is he said, as the best you can do in the portal of your death, and I'm not getting my words exact, but like the highest realm of awareness that you can achieve in that moment of transition will affect your other lives, how you reincarnate, what you've shed energetically on this plane in this life. And I was like, okay, well, I guess in that case, it's worth taking the time to really,
Mhm.
really prepare for
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
Yeah.
moment. It's a pretty big,
Beautiful.
special moment.
Oh,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is. I love that actually. There's a Buddhist book around here too that I had when I got really sick back in like 1999, and it was the meditation was about watching your body just fall apart and just
Mhm.
being aware of it, right? So for like 2 years that's all I did because I was determined to like watch my body do whatever. But even to this day, I noticed this. I was going to a conference the other day and I jumped on my bike and I ran downtown. And because Denver seems to be really like nutty on the streets
Oh,
these days,
uh-huh, uh-huh.
um, I literally like half a block away, I'm just like, okay, if a car hits me, hey, this is what it's I'm gonna like eject, my body's gonna like fall over and it's gonna hurt, but oh, but don't hold on. It's okay. You can really so I'm practicing like letting go too, right?
All the
Like I'm
time.
just like, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like it's gonna
Yeah.
be fine.
Yeah.
That's my
Wow.
that's my little practice.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I love that you brought up death doulas. We can use that as a promotion for a podcast we're going to do, one of our premium podcasts, just talking to death doulas. So we want to
Yeah.
know, what is a death doula? What do they do? How did they get there? How did they find that calling? What was their
Right.
guidance, and what do they want to share? What do they want to give? I think
And there are
that's
all
that.
kinds of death doulas too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I went to a conference last week and handed out 100 cards or something, and suddenly we've got like 7 or 8 death doulas in a row that want to talk to us. So
Amazing.
so, but great, we'll do them. We'll put them all together. So it's great. Though, but you're right. It's such a just having that, being aware that there is such a thing now is really, really beautiful and a
And
really
also just
possibly a good change.
being aware for those of us left behind watching
Mhm.
the ascendance of our beloved, the the shifting moments. Like I have a very dear friend who is a cranial sacral therapist, and she was holding her father's legs as he ascended. And she said the cranial sacral pulse was pulsing through his body, even though his heart had ceased to be pumping. The cranial
Wow.
sacral fluid was pumping through his legs for like 40 minutes
Wow.
afterwards.
Wow.
And, you hear that people can hear you for
Well,
a period after
Mhm.
they're no longer alive.
mhm.
So there's some kind of neurological. So I think it's interesting teaching those of us left behind how to hold space
Yes.
for
Mhm.
like the full potentiality. It's not just a moment, it's a period.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Such great work. Such important work.
yeah. You're so fun to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah. We could go on a long time. But thanks so much. We always do like to make sure we ask if there's anything that you wish we had asked you.
No, I have delighted in this conversation. It's been really rich for me to be here with you both.
Yeah, yeah, we loved it as well. I'm looking forward to
Yes.
it. We will
And
certainly
let's
let you
keep the
know.
prayers going. I guess the last thing I would say is really, really heartfelt prayers. May we shift
Mm.
timelines and may we emerge victorious in peace. I mean, truly,
Yeah, yeah,
because we
Mhm.
can. I know we can.
yeah, yeah. Let's do
So,
that love thing that you talked about.
oh,
I
let's do the
do. I
love thing.
know. I'm in.
Great.
All right, we'll do it. Well, as usual, we like to end our interviews with a quote or a poem that our guests have brought us. And Anastasia has brought us this beautiful quote from Rumi. So I'll start. Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with their heart and soul, there is no such thing. as separation.
Mm,
Beautiful.
that's so beautiful.
You want to read it again?
I most certainly do. Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with their heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation. It's our friend Rumi.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much for joining us on the End of Life Conversations. We appreciate you and look forward to sharing our stories. We encourage you to subscribe to have access to premium episodes and extra resources. Links to our guests and their recommendations and a transcript of this episode will be in the podcast notes.
Yes, thank you so much. And please tell all your friends. Follow us on social media, and again, consider subscribing for some excellent premium content. We want to acknowledge that the music we are using was composed and produced by Charles Heastand. We also want to acknowledge that we live on unceded lands that have been cared for thousands of years by Indigenous peoples who are still here.